But before Dr. Paul comes on stage, I wanted to introduce our next speaker, which is Natasha Montague. She's a senior at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana and is a leader within the Liberty Movement. So without further ado, Ms. Natasha Montague.
Good evening and welcome to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. It's so exciting to see so many supporters of freedom and liberty out here tonight, and even more exciting to see so many supporters of Dr. Ron Paul. But first, I would like to introduce you to another champion of liberty, Congressman Tim Johnson. Congressman Tim Johnson is currently serving his 6th term in the 15th Congressional District of Illinois. Born right here in Champaign, he graduated from Urbana High School, attended West Point, earned a degree at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and graduated from U of I's College of Law. He has 9 children and 11 grandchildren. Prior to serving in Congress, Congressman Johnson was an Urbana lawyer, small businessman, a realtor, and served on the Urbana City Council and in the Illinois State Legislature. He is a proponent of small government, fighting against taxes, and reducing the national debt. Please join me in a warm welcome for Congressman Tim Johnson.
I want to ask the opinion makers of this country and the pundits who continue to say that despite the polls and despite his appeal and despite 5,000 people in one room that Ron Paul can't win. Now that to me epitomizes what's wrong with government today when we have a self-selected group of elitist opinion makers who tell 5,000 people here that Ron Paul can't win when he's the last greatest hope for liberty we have in this country. To me, there's something wrong with that. In a flow of consciousness and in a kind of an accord to my high school rhetoric teacher, Mrs. LeSueur, who may actually be here tonight, I thought of a series of words that came to my mind. Genuine, unique, iconic, principled, visionary, integrity-filled, bold, and courageous. And that's what Ron Paul is, ladies and gentlemen. Well, 12 years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Ron Paul, Congressman Paul. And I have witnessed and known a true American legend, a hero whose commitment to liberty has spanned our times. He is at once a real friend of mine, I'm proud of that, and a model of the purest form of public service. Generations from today, you in this audience will be able to look back and say that you were here on March the 14th, 2012, and be able to tell your children and grandchildren that you saw and heard a great patriot whose belief in freedom, in fundamental values, and to the hope for the American dream will have set the course for all times. I'll give you a brief... been a member of Congress with the exception of a few years since 1976. He's a physician who's made a living in the real world. He's a father and a grandfather. In fact, his granddaughter is backstage with us. He's led the crusade for limited government, constitutional principles, individual liberties, fiscal sanity and restraint, and opposition to senseless, silly wars that kill innocent civilians, kill hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians around the world, American servicemen and women, and cost trillions of dollars to add to our burgeoning national debt. Is there anybody in this room today, and I'll be glad to entertain hands, who feels one iota safer because our government for the last eons has conducted an onslaught on the Middle East, with somehow the vision that we can win awards. Does anybody in here feel safer for that? No. We have a man here who I'm going to introduce in just a minute who actually believes that the trillions of dollars we've spent, the lives that it's cost us, and the effect on our human infrastructure and here and around the world is not worth the price. He's conducted an incredible campaign. He's survived the long battle from Iowa to Illinois. Ironically, if you look at the polls, the latest Rasmussen poll, Ron Paul is beating President Obama 43 to 41, and yet we hear and those same polls show that the opposition is falling substantially behind. So the question is, who are you going to listen to? Are you going to listen to the American people or the elitist opinion makers who try to frame our opinions and determine who's going to win or lose in the privacy of their own home? I don't think so. He has an across-the-board appeal to liberals, conservatives, independents, ordinary Americans who simply want government to leave them free to pursue their dreams. He defies the worldwide opinion makers who say he can't win because he can win. And the greatest tribute to this gentleman is the fact that we have, shortly before spring break, we have thousands of people, the biggest turnout of the campaign, bigger than any other campaign anywhere, including any of the contenders, here in one place to pay tribute to this great man. So thank you for being here. And lastly, we're about a mission. We're about a mission of fundamental decency and the self-sufficiency of individuals in a collective world. We're about the belief that government should not and cannot spend our money, usurp our freedom, and kill and maim our people in a useless venture that results in no positive gains. It can't involuntarily direct our lives for other proclaimed greater good. So this gentleman is the hope for an America that is debt-free, peace-driven, humane, and good, and driven by the golden arm of the United States Constitution and the principles of our founding fathers or mothers. In conclusion, he has chosen our community, and we are eternally grateful, Dr. Paul, to bring your campaign to Illinois. He's given his full time and energy to a campaign for tomorrow, and he is our last and best hope for common sense, freedom, and liberty, and the dreams of a better future for our children and our grandchildren. The individual, I'm doing this out of teleprompter, by the way, so the individual everyday citizen who simply wants the chance to realize his or her job. But before I introduce the congressman, our next president, let me point out something. Somewhere in our seat is Gordy Holton. Gordy Holton is, where are you, Gordy? You're here somewhere, right here. Gordy Holton is Champaign County Clerk. He's following Mark Sheldon, who's also here with me, who was a previous, Mark Sheldon's in the front row, another county clerk, and they both would tell you, and Gordy tell you specifically, that voting is open today, or it's closed today, it's open tomorrow, it's open. So before you go home on break, East Washington Street, the Brookins Center, go vote, because that's the way you make your voice known. You didn't hear me speech. I appreciate your indulging me. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your turnout. But it's now my pleasure to introduce the next President of the United States, the greatest hope we have for freedom, Congressman Ron Paul.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. What a nice welcome.
Who knows, this might even be a record crowd. This is really fantastic. Thank you. You know, it sounds like the revolution has arrived to Illinois. I'm delighted to be here with you. You know, we talk a lot about restoring America, and when we restore the Republic, there'll be one way you'll know. The students will once again be able to choose their own mascots. I want to thank Congressman Johnson for that very nice introduction. Tim is a very good friend. He's a close ally, and it would be sure a shame if you don't send him back to Washington next go around. So I sure hope you'll be seeing him back. Tim.